Hey, how you doing? I was thinking today how grocery stores used to seem a lot smaller. They were a lot smaller compared to these huge super centers today. And I started to think body wash wasn't even around, like in the 70s. You go in a store today and look at this section of body wash. There's 30 or 40 different kinds of body wash, I think. And types for women, types for men. There must be types for children. They're just everywhere. It didn't used to be like that. And as a matter of fact, the whole time growing up, I didn't have body wash. We had a bar of soap. We had a bar of soap in the kitchen. We had a bar of soap at the bathroom sink and in the shower. There was no body wash. So that's a whole section that wasn't there back then. And it was everything. If you think about like laundry detergent, there were a few kinds. Dishwashing detergent, just a few kinds. It wasn't all of this stuff that there is today. Now, my grandmother used to work in a small grocery store for years, like her whole career. She worked in a small grocery store. She would run the cash register, but she would also run the little stamping machine that she had to put the price on the top of cans. So you would see people in the aisles of these little grocery stores with these stampers, ink stampers. They would flip when you pressed them down. So you could set the number like 23 cents, on the little dials. And when you stamped the can, it would put that purple price on the top of the can. You saw that a lot in the old grocery stores. Now, you also saw people, customers in the grocery stores, walking around with those little plastic red clicking adding machines. As they picked the can up off of the shelf and they looked and they said, oh, that's 23 cents. They would push 2 and 3 on the little digit adders and put it in their cart. Well, they were keeping track of the total of their grocery spending because it was cash and you had to have enough cash to pay for the stuff in your cart. So you would get through, load up all your groceries, do all your shopping, come up to the cash register. Now, there weren't 30 cash registers, like at some of these superstores. Today, I see 30 cash registers at those, but only maybe 2 cashiers working. But nonetheless, it wasn't like that back then. There was only 3 or 4 cash registers. So you would unload your cart onto this small, maybe 3 foot of like a stainless steel counter. And the person working the cash register was right there. You would push your cans along. There was no conveyor. You would push these cans along so that the person could pick them up, look at the price on the can, and manually enter it in, the old clunky mechanical cash register. You could see the total because as she entered the 2-3 number, let's say, it would change the little mechanical tabs on the top with the numbers on it. It was totalizing as it went along. So you would know what your bill is. So let's say she's working the cash register. And usually there was a guy who was a bagger. So she would take the cans as she added them up and slide them by hand to the bagger. Now, he'd be at the very end of the skinny little stainless steel counter. There was always a slot at the end of that counter with paper bags. I mean, stacks, 2 stacks usually, of paper bags. Because That's all there was the brown paper bag. There wasn't the plastic bags and stuff like that. Now, he would grab a bag out from under there, and of course they're all folded. He would put his hand in there and flap the bottom out and load these cans up, piece by piece. Once he got them all loaded up, he would set them into your cart. And sometimes they would push the carts out. You know, you'd see an old lady at the grocery store, and everybody knew each other. He would push the groceries out to her car and load them up for her and stuff too. There was a lot of that went on because everybody knew each other. Now, once you got everything totalized, let's say, and they're ringing it up and bagging it, the girl at the cash register would say, oh, you know, it's $57.23. And you would get these little old ladies who counted out everything exactly. So first the bills, count out 57 bills, you know, depending if it was all fives and ones or whatever. And then the exact change, penny by penny. And then the little old lady would push it over to the girl at the cash register, and she would take it. It took some time, obviously. Some of the people were a little more speedy than others, but it generally took some more time. Another thing that took time was the people who weren't using the adding machines to add up their groceries were just like guessing roughly. Like, you would put a can in there, and if it was 50 cents, you just round up to $1 and try to keep a rough idea. But you weren't always exactly right. And you would see people get to the cash register, and their bill was, say, $47, and they would go, oh, I only have $43. So they would start subtracting stuff from the bill. So they would put this box of stuff back and this box of stuff. The girl at the cash register would minus it from their bill until they had enough cash to pay for it. They just wouldn't get that stuff that day. But it was cash. So you had to have the cash. Now, later on, and some of these stores would take checks if you filled out a check cashing card. So you went over to the little customer service part of the store and filled out this check cashing card. You know, you gave them your name and your phone number and all that stuff, and you'd have a card on file. Then you could use a check to pay for your groceries. But majority of the people you would see, it was cash. So let's say you had enough cash, you gave it to the cash register girl. She gave you your change back, gave you your receipt. Now she would give you these. S&H green stamps. There was a little machine that sat beside the cash register, green as a matter of fact, with dials on it, and she would dial the amount that you paid for your bill, and it would spit out that many green stamps. Rip those off and hand them to you too. Now, these green stamps, it seemed like everybody collected them. I know my grandmother was big on these green stamps, and we went to the stores that had these green stamps also. There was a kitchen drawer that had junk in it. Pens, pencils, erasers, all that kind of stuff, rubber bands. Every time we got back from the grocery store, we would throw these green stamps in that drawer. And then once it started to get a big pile of these, you would get these green stamp books, you know, and they had them at your grocery store, at the customer service part. You could just go over and get some of these. You would get enough of these green stamp books, you would fill them up. Once you filled them up, you could use them to, you could go to the green stamp store and buy, like, you know, toasters, blenders, stuff like that, just with these green stamps. So they came in handy. Now, there's no green stamp stores today, and people don't hand out green stamps at the grocery store. So you can't use these anymore. But hey, at least they're not clogging up your drawer in your kitchen. Now, until the next time, take care of yourself, and I'll see you later.